Hello and welcome to Gammon Brexit News. This is the first video on this channel, so I hope you enjoy it. So at the moment we're suffering from, food shortages. I say we are suffering, we have been suffering from various food shortages in the UK for quite some time now. Became very apparent today when I went shopping, and also this is not just my local supermarket. Other people from all over the country are commenting on this. Indeed, Nando's have had to close a number of restaurants. KFC have had to diminish their offering in on their menus. McDonald's have stopped selling some products. And just when you go to the supermarket with a list, well, you can't buy whatever's on it. So, what does the government say about this? Well, they blame the pandemic or the pingdemic, with people in warehousing, distribution and retail having to self-isolate because their phones go ping because they've been into contact with somebody with coronavirus. Very good. Nice excuse. Problem is, other European countries that have equal problems with coronavirus are not suffering these food shortages. So the pingdemic is not a reason. It's not even an excuse, it's just BS, it's complete rubbish. The government are telling us a pack of lies. What's really the root cause of this problem? Ask why. Why is there a problem? Why is this problem? Why is that problem? Why does this problem exist? And get to the root cause of it. The root cause, simply one word: Brexit. And the government wish to deny this. So you go shopping with a list, you can't actually get everything that's on your list, and it's only going to get worse. And why is this? And why is Brexit the root cause? Well, freedom of movement. The UK Gammon government decided not to have freedom of movement as part of their Tory hardline Brexit. This was offered by Europe, it's been offered again, but the Gammons in London have decided, nope, we don't want freedom of movement, we're taking back control. Precisely what we've taken back control of, I don't know. I can't survive and I can't eat sovereignty. I don't want to pay more for my food because I have some perceived notion of sovereignty in this country. What they are doing is not letting EU workers into this country, A, to pick food, it's rotting in the fields, B, to work in the supply chain, delivering raw materials like food or chicken or livestock to perhaps abattoirs or warehouses, and then C, there's not some migrant labour allowed in this country then to distribute that food that's been processed to the supermarkets. As a result, supermarkets are having to rationalise their stock. Again, if you go to the shop this week, you may not find chicken because the British Poultry Producers Association, I think they're called, said that they have 16% of their vacancies in that industry unfilled. So there are not enough people to process chicken for our own plates. So not only can we not get food imported, we're struggling to feed ourselves with domestic produce. This is completely ridiculous. And the government blame it on the pingdemic. They've been asked by various, trade bodies and associations to let some kind of freedom of movement happen again, or perhaps to make visas easier to get. So European Union drivers, food factory workers, food pickers can come into this country and work to help feed our nation. The government say no. Train your own drivers. Get people to work in these jobs. There's quite high unemployment. Well, there is, but the problem is the unemployed people tend not to be near where the jobs are. Agriculture, growing of chickens and livestock or fruit and veg tends not to be near areas with high unemployment. It tends to be in a rural area. And people are already working. So are we going to move people from cities to go and live in some rural area away from their families? Are all the Brexit dividend jobs going to come home to roost, so to speak? I really don't think so. I think this government is just talking through its anus. However, the food shortages are only going to get worse. Do you know how long it takes to train to be an HGV driver? And then if you do your license or take your license in this country, you may need to take another license now to actually drive in continental Europe, or get some kind of special permission like you're going to have to do with your car. So that's not going to solve the problem. Training drivers takes a long time. We need a short-term solution because we're running out of food. Go to your supermarket, it's been going on for months. I mean, some produce, fresh produce, typically from Spain or the Netherlands or something like that, used to come into the country and you could go and buy cherries or peaches or fruit that was in season from the EU. Now, they're shipping it in from halfway around the world, from South Africa, Chile or Peru. That's not good for a government that wants to have green credentials at the COP summit in Glasgow later this year, is it? So let's ship some food in from halfway around the world. Same thing with this Australia trade deal. Let's bring meat in from the other side of the planet where it can be produced on a massive scale, bring it into this country, undercut all the farmers, and again throw agriculture and jobs under the bus. If there were anybody around to drive buses, because they're probably all retraining to be HGV drivers because the vehicles are similar size, but HGV driving pays far more money at the moment, with companies like Tesco or Arla Foods giving golden hellos to newly recruited HGV drivers. Wait to see where all the bin men go, all those drivers. They'll probably move over into logistics and distribution to get these golden hellos, and then when somebody's not here to collect your bins on whatever morning of the week they go, well, all the gammons will be furious, throw some pineapple on them and eat them. It's not a good situation. It's like a colander that's full of water. You try to plug one hole and the water simply runs out of another hole. So the government are not moving on this. Industry are trying to dictate some sort of policy change to them, but they just won't do it. They just won't say, we have a problem, we need European migrant or transitory workers to come to this country to help us out. It's this Tory Brexit mentality. Everything is great about Brexit. Well, show me something that we've benefited from Brexit from. Actually, go in the news, find something that has brought benefits of Brexit to this country. We're no longer in the common market. We no longer have freedom of movement. I've lived and worked in Europe. I think I'd struggle to do that again now. These sort of gammon voting numpties who definitely voted for the wrong thing under some kind of crazy misbelief because of things written on the sides of buses and propaganda from the likes of Farage and Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg. They made the wrong decision at the ballot box, quite simply. Now these problems are coming to the forefront. We're even being told to start buying ahead for Christmas now, because you might not be able to get turkey, you might not be able to buy your kids toys, and this is all because of a self-inflicted supply chain problem. So are the government going to do anything about this? Well, this problem has been on the horizon for months. It's slowly been building up. I remember back in April, May, perhaps even March, some sort of shortages of fresh fruit and vegetables in my local supermarket. Now it's getting ridiculous. Things like bottled water. Yes, I buy bottled water because the tap water here is disgusting. So simply I need to drink bottled water. And quite a few times I've ended up in a supermarket not able to buy my, 50p for 2 litres of water. All that was left was Evian, which is like £5 for 6 1.5 litre bottles. It's ridiculous. Also, you can talk about inflation. The prices of things you can get are starting to be noticeably more expensive now than they were 2 or 3 months ago. So, another Brexit bonus! Fantastic! So, we have supply chain issues, we have issues with people working in agriculture, issues with people working in the sort of fruit and vegetable industry as well, and it's all compounding to make a horrible mess in our supermarkets. And what do? You can't blame the supermarkets. They stretch out what they do have. You might find, like 6 spaces of bananas now, because they've got plenty of those, whereas before there might have been peaches or cherries or strawberries or something like that. Tomatoes even, soft fruit from Europe. Now we simply don't have access to it. When will we run out of pineapple? Because if we do run out of pineapple, the gammons won't be very happy, will they? So what's the answer? probably short-term visas to let people back into this country to help distribute our food and to help feed ourselves. But nope, that won't happen because the government says no. So what do we do? Trade bodies are complaining to the government are obfuscating and hiding facts. Oh, it's the pingdemic, it's the pandemic. Well, other countries have self-isolation for people who've come into contact with COVID sufferers. They have the same pandemic as we do. That's why it's called a pandemic. Pan meaning everywhere, not an epidemic. So it's all across Europe as well. But they're not suffering the same supply chain shortages as we are. Take a trip to France, Germany, Spain, if you're allowed to leave Plague Island, and have a look in their supermarket shelves, stocked to the brim with all the food you can imagine. But our government once again just buries its head in the sand and does nothing about it, because the Brexit mantra, Brexit must be followed, Brexit is great, it's the best thing ever, it's the will of the people apparently, although only 23% of voting age people in this country actually voted to Brexit. And half of those are probably regretting it now. So what a bunch of numpties. So what can you do? Well, you can either starve, you can panic buy if you've got the money to do so, which I wouldn't recommend, because if you go out buying all the staples, then that leaves people on lower incomes who rely on those staples with less money to eat, and they probably would have to go to a food bank. And the other thing you might notice now is in the shops there's less and less food being placed in those trolleys they have to provide things to food banks. So this is all going to come to a crashing conclusion. What that conclusion is, I've really no idea. Can you write to your MP to complain about it? Probably, but they won't listen because they've got the Brexit mentality. Is it worth complaining to the supermarket? Probably not, because those people that work in retail are under enough stress as it is. The root cause of the problem is Brexit and the lack of access to the single European market and freedom of movement. So the solution to this is for some political party to come along and wish to realign with Europe and let these people come back into our country to help us to feed ourselves. Until that day comes, well, the shortages will probably only get worse. Thank you. Goodbye.